20 years ago today, two hijacked planes were flown into the World Trade Center's Twin Towers, changing history forever.
The second plane flew in over my head and pretty much disappeared into the building, and then the explosion happened.
September 11th, an emotional day for many, especially those who were there. News 13's Hannah McKenzie spoke with one local woman about her experience that day and how she copes with each anniversary.
A series of strange incidents keeping Crystal Cattano alive on September 11th, 2001.
I just couldn't get out of the hotel for one reason or another, and now we know I wasn't supposed to be out in the plaza. At the time I should have been.
Cattano, a software consultant, worked in New York every Sunday through Thursday. Her part-time home, the Marriott World Trade Center.
I was actually center room on the top floor when the first plane hit.
To this day, Cattano credits her life to her toe rings that for some reason just didn't feel right, slowing her down.
I think they saved my life.
If she'd have left her room 30 seconds sooner, Cattano says she likely wouldn't be here today.
There's nothing about this day that to me is not sad. And I just always try to just make sure that I've earned my spot here because it was granted to me. I was blessed with it. And it's just important that throughout the year, I make sure I do right by those that didn't make it.
One of those victims, her West Henderson High School classmate, Jennifer Gore. Gore, a flight attendant on American Airlines Flight 77, killed when hijackers crashed the plane into the Pentagon.
There's not a year or, that goes by that I don't think about Jennifer.
Cattano copes with help from a survivors group. It's a bond they never wanted, but feel fortunate to have found.
They're really some of the only people that I can talk to that know exactly what happened that day.
Now, after 20 years, Cattano looking through the mementos she's saved.
These are the actual shoes that I had on. They're still dusty.
But some memories too hard to relive.
So I've kind of kept everything, including some film from that day that I still have not developed.
She doesn't need the photos. That day forever imprinted on her soul.
It's part of who I am. It was a day and time that is now part of who I am until probably my last breath.
Saturday marks 20 years since the September 11th terror attacks. Two planes crashed into the World Trade Centers, changing history forever. News 13's Hannah McKenzie spoke with a local woman who was there. Tonight, she shares her story of survival.
September 11th, 2001, a day etched into world history and Shelley Willis Vergara's mind forever.
Oh my goodness, I was so young.
Thumbing through headlines from a box she hasn't opened in 20 years, the memories flooding back.
Just really hard to believe that I was actually there.
In New York for business, the liquidation consultant, inside the basement level of the World Trade Center's North Tower, the first tower targeted.
The lights blinked, and I'm pretty sure that's when the first plane hit.
Coming out of her office to see what was going on, the door shut behind her, her ID and wallet locked inside. Now, seeing hundreds fleeing, her first thought, a mass shooting.
I was kind of grabbing people, or I was yelling at people, and what's going on? What are you doing? And there was one lady that just said, hey, you need to get the F out of the building, like right now. So I panicked at that point. I got in line with everyone that was running, and out the building we went.
Outside, Willis Vergara's story of survival brimming with gruesome memories she's tried to forget.
I didn't want to dream about people jumping out of the building. I didn't want to dream about people, on fire and all the people that lost their lives that day.
Some haunting her more than others.
Because I jumped over a lady that had fallen and people were running over her, and I didn't stop to help her up. I still beat myself up because I didn't stop to help her.
In a state of shock, Willis Vergara able to call her mother, Naomi, for help.
She was writing where I was, at what time I was, and where I was, and how many blocks I had walked.
The call cut short.
When that second plane hit, the explosion was so powerful. I felt like it hit my nose.
Leaving her mother paralyzed by fear.
I can't even tell you. It's like one of those moments when every bit of energy in your body drains out of you.
Everybody just panicked and we ran and we didn't know where we were running and we didn't know where we were going.
She didn't stop running until she made it to her cousin's apartment 100 blocks away. 6 months later, a surprise from the FBI.
These are extremely special to me.
Her license and credit card, long forgotten about, plucked from the rubble, serving each day since as a reminder to look forward.
So I'm extremely happy that I was able to survive through it.
A Buncombe County group is working to honor victims of lynching by sharing their names and stories. They say this is a step towards unifying our community. News 13's Andrew James has more on the next step for the project.
The Buncombe Community Remembrance Project has worked to identify victims of lynching in our area. From here, the group plans to honor these victims with historical markers in our community. John Humphreys, Hezekiah Rankin, and Bob Brackett, 3 victims of lynchings in Buncombe County between 1888 and 1897.
It's important to recognize that it occurred in Buncombe County, to get the facts around the 3 individuals.
Dr. Joseph Fox of the Buncombe Community Remembrance Project tells me these efforts are all about community healing.
Understanding that piece of our history helps us guides us to where we are now, but also moving forward to heal and make change.
Part of that process including collecting soil from the lynching sites.
You go out to sites as close as possible or has significant meaning to the lynchings. You collect soil and you hold a soil collection ceremony of life.
Fox explains lynchings leave behind trauma and division for the victims' families and the community as a whole.
For us to unify the community, we must first recognize and acknowledge that there's healing needed to be on both sides.
The group is partnering with the Equal Justice Initiative's National Memorial for Peace and Justice, a memorial for victims of lynching in Montgomery, Alabama. Do you think this is overdue for our community?
It is. With the current state of political activities in the United States, with calls for reformation to repair damage of the past.
He tells me this project is not about blaming anyone for the wrongs of the past, instead understanding them and moving forward together.
I think this is a good start towards that community healing.
The group plans to install 3 historical markers honoring the victims of lynching. Those ceremonies are now planned for late October.